computer.
All right.
All right. Welcome, welcome. This
Thank you.
is Terrence Frederick, American author of D.E.E.P Flow. I have one of my earlier readers who got a chance to get through portions of the book. And April Ghoston, how you doing?
I am doing wonderful, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I just want to have these conversations and different people who have been able to, as we say, chop it up a little bit with the word and the book. And my first question is, what was the original, the first thing that stood out when you got the book?
The first thing that stood out for me was the first page, the color of the book, the colors that you chose to put on the front of the book, and the way the acronyms of how it was written, how you emphasized on deep, and how you, just the way it was written on the front and the colors you chose. That's
Okay,
the first
that
thing
stood out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you saw, or you may have seen on one of my other posts where I was talking about that was deliberate, the colors that I chose, that they are priestly colors, and all those things connected to either the tabernacle, the priesthood, and even the royal color, and where that comes from. So, yeah, that was deliberate, which was one of the first, is the first acronym to be deliberate and strategic about how you want to, or how you're supposed to connect with the people you're called to reach. Um, Everything is not just scattered and out there with no planning, but many of the things we do, even if we make it look like there was no thought behind it, we have to be deliberate in our approach. But what else stood out to you as you began to go through some of this?
Well, I was excited to, first I'm honored, I would like to say that I'm honored that you chose me to do this, or to be one of your first readers of your material. I was excited. I was excited to even just start reading the first words. And the reason for that is because of the person that I know you to be, and how intentional you are when you speak, and your words are powerful. I'm just so involved, and I get indulged when I read anything that you've written on Facebook or whatever. So my excitement was when I finally got to lay eyes on this book and the first pages of it, it was just, my heart was really pounding with excitement and curiosity of what was I about to behold. And I was grabbed. I was really grabbed by all the first words of the book. I don't have because I'm not in my office space right now, but I don't have the pages that I wanted to present. But every page of this book has grabbed me in a personal way. Mentally, physically, and spiritually, I have been engulfed from every single page. I'm serious. I have been personally challenged by reading the first pages of this book. I found myself in this book.
So that's awesome right there. I think about, when people ask me, they'll either ask me something like, tell me about yourself, or tell me what the book is about. And I find myself having maybe 5 different answers of how I would describe the book. So it will be interesting to hear, just if somebody said, well, what's the book about? What is it? It says communication. Is that the gist of it? How would you describe like the main points? Because you might bring out something I didn't even consider.
Oh my goodness. Terrence, the intention that has gone into the book is so, it's very deep. So those words, the acronyms is just so on point. Deep is just, D.E.E.P Flow is perfect title for this book.
Who would you recommend that would
I've already got people I'm gonna buy the book for and everything. I have at least 5 people I already know that would indulge in this book and be just mind blown by this book. One will be my instructor from Baylor University.
Mm,
I already know that I'm going to send him this book.
wow.
I think it's a wonderful gift to give to somebody. Um, and I was thinking that maybe because I love to read a lot, that maybe that's why I'm so affected by the words in this book and whatever, but it's not that, because the way the book reads, it's easy, it's an easy read.
Is it an easy read? Because
It's
I
an
was I
easy
was
read.
struggling with that. Like some people, I heard some other people said, well, see, some it's not all that easy. So you felt like it was an easy read
I
though?
feel like it's an easy read if you are trying to, if your intention is when reading this book is to learn about communication.
Okay,
It's an
if
easy
that's your
read.
intention.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to read it with intentions on or desiring to know more about the very thing or the very subject that you are seeking. So yes, it's an easy read when you look at it from that perspective. But I think if somebody just picked the book up and said, "Well, what's this book about?" And like, "Oh, no, I ain't trying to hear that." But I intentionally opened the book with learning more about communicating, and I believe because it's where I am in my life right now. And the Bible tends to do the very same thing is when you open it up, depending on where you are in your life, is how those verses in scripture will relate to you or how you relate to that scripture at that very moment in time. But if you just open the book and say, "Oh, he's talking about communicating and I'm not interested in that right now," then no, you probably won't get it. So
Gotcha.
um, the book is conducive, very conducive. It has a feel of like being in a quiet room and you want to, being alone in a quiet room and knowing that you are about to get into something that you want to take time to get into, so to speak, like
Okay.
you really want to take part in it because you desire to explore this thing without interruption.
Okay.
So when I'm
So some of
reading
those
the
books
book,
you're
I
saying
don't
like you have to flow in, you have to be in a place where you can really concentrate
where you
on the
can
material.
really absorb and obtain the words that you're about to read, because every page is very deep, it's very intentional. It causes you to really self-reflect and do a self-evaluation of self. I, you know, I've come to tears reading the book. Seriously. There
Wow.
was a part where I was reading here, where I came to tears about um, who I am as a communicator, how I communicate, and I think it was something about bitter resentment and unresolved discussions
Mm.
that you haven't had. Oh wow, just that was just very good. But I personally would say this book would be a great book for counseling, for marriages, for relationships, for people on jobs that have quarrels or disagreements. Uh, it would be perfect in almost pretty much every setting that I can think of. It covers all the bases. It really does. And it's a good resource. I would refer back to it. If I was to come, I would take it with me wherever I go. It would be part of my everything, So like when I go and I'm struggling about how to deal with certain situations, I think,
Mm.
if you if it in the future, if you wanted to break the book down and use it to like a little booklet for
Right.
go to. Yeah,
Right.
I think it would be a
Now I
great.
was thinking about that as far as the Lord told me this book was the source book, but then there's other materials that are going to be pulled out of this book on a more focused, concentrated area, and just to build that out some more, training classes as well as, like you said, other products and books. And so I'm glad that you pulled that out because that's one of the things that I had in mind to for it to be in the hands of the people who actually lead people in some capacity. Where, like you said, counselors, people who are facilitating conflict resolution on some level in those hands as a resource they could give the people their patients or whatever client, and then leaders in terms of pastors and dealing with different areas and levels of communication in ministry context. So I was thinking about that as well. I do feel like the flow of the book kind of takes a shift at a certain point. Like I remember when I was dealing with my coworkers and just talking to them about it, I said, "Would you like to hear if I was talking about a book about communication and I wanted to talk about divine communication, interpersonal communication, self communication, even workplace communication? Where would you want the Where would you want the most Bible heavy stuff at? In the beginning or the end?" And
Yes.
most of them said, in the beginning. And I said, I asked a few other people, and I said, "Why do you say the beginning?" And they were saying because we feel like we hear a lot of stuff already about the just communication in general, so we want to go straight to what the word said. But I kind of was like, let me just put it in the middle. I'm gonna just put the heaviest stuff that I'm thinking like would be the heaviest stuff, or some things to really deal with theologically. I felt like it would be better to just have it laced primarily in the middle, so you won't just get too much of one thing. And do you feel like the pace, how does it move? Do you feel like it moves fast, or do you believe it really does move slow in terms of switching from one aspect of communication to the other? What do you feel like the speed is with
I
it?
I think that it's the chapters are short, but I'm used to reading big books, so but
Yeah.
it's so packed with information in that short chapter. They're not real long chapters, but it's so much information in those paragraphs that
Hmm.
you would have to go back and read it again. And every page is a point to ponder. Every page is like a parable. Every page is like, uh, this is you. This is just really you, but it covers so much in those short paragraphs. So if I would say, I wouldn't say that it goes real fast. I think it causes you to slow down. I don't think the book reads fast, but I think it causes you to slow down.
That's deep right there. I
Yeah,
like that.
it causes
Uh,
you to slow down because you can skim over things. You can, when you read, you can skim read, you can fast read. That it's up to you how you want to read.
that's
Because
right.
reading a book is all about the fantasy, it's all about the experience,
Hmm.
it's all about the adventure. So it really determines how deep you want to go with it. Once again, there's the word deep again.
Yes.
It determines how deep you want to go, how deep you choose to go, and allow the book to take you in whatever direction it's taking you. But I think it's how it affects you. The words affect me. So you touched on how to communicate to marginalized people.
Hmm.
You talked about Mandela. You talked about all of, Rosa Parks and how they communicated. And um, so, and I think that's where I got kind of teared up at, is because I personally sometimes, you even talked about how, oh my God, how when you are having a conversation with someone and the person you're communicating with tends to turn the conversation on themselves, talking about narcissists, and
Yes.
how, but the other person don't feel heard because now they're talking about themselves. So what you just communicated to me is gone out the window because now I'm so busy focused on talking about myself instead of me, you know, uh, bouncing back off of what you just said and ask you more questions about what you just expressed to me. So then this way you do feel heard, and your message that you was trying, or the point that you was trying to make, is being heard. And now
Hmm.
I want you to express more on it. And so I'm drawing the attention back to you so you can tell me more about what you was trying to. But if I start talking about myself, then
Right.
it messes up the whole conversation. So yeah.
Good that you brought that out too, because that is the plight of a lot of introverted people, or people who, we talk about that a little bit, that people who won't force their way or bully their way into the conversation. Like, hey, if you want to just take over, and then they will just back up and just let you do it. But they
Mm,
do have things to say. And like you said, bringing that out asking more questions and engaging them.
Mhm.
That's also just good sociology, psychology as well, because you know that if you're going to get the most out of somebody, you got to make them feel comfortable, and you got to make them feel like it's about them more so than you. You know, in terms of wanting to draw out something from it. Now, if I'm trying to
Mhm.
deposit something too, or if it's supposed to be an exchange, all those are different forms of methodologies of communication. So that's good. I'm glad you brought that out.
Well,
But one of
I really, I would just want to hear more from you really about the insight that went into it, because you certainly put, it's time well spent. Oh my goodness. You I can feel everything that you put into this book. Your time, your heart, your efforts, your concerns, your direction. Specifically, you made sure to not point fingers at anybody indirectly or directly. You just kept it on a neutral level.
right,
You didn't want anybody to feel like they were being called out or anything. That's not, so nobody has to take it personal. But you
right,
do take it personal because of the way it's written. But that's up to you if you choose to identify with your own inadequacies about communicating or whatever it is you want to. But it's all there. So I have taken it personal, and I've about how I communicate in relationships with the clients, with just people in general when I'm out in the store or whatever. But it covers all of those bases about how we communicate.
now, can you think about another book in the past, maybe through your education years or um, just any time in the past? I know there are a lot of great authors out there who covered a lot of topics, but can you think of a book, another book off the top that focuses that heavy on communication and as far as drawing it out and just concentrating the subject on communication? Can you think? Because I was looking at a few, and I was like, I don't even know if people know these other ones are out here, but do they come to mind?
Only book I can tell you that I have read that communicates on that is the Bible.
Mm,
I've read a lot of books, but a majority of them is biblically based,
yes,
that focuses on communicating, and in the manner that you are communicating the information pertaining to communicating. So what I mean by that is when you are speaking about communicating, you're also making sure that it's done in love,
yeah,
that it's to edify, to lift up, that not to be done in out of spite or to
right,
hurt somebody, or but and um, to just be aware of the moment, be in the moment, be present. I think communicating, when you're talking about making sure that you're present with the person. So
hmm,
when somebody's talking, not that you're not thinking about what you're going to say next,
right,
but be totally engaged in what the person is talking about, being present.
right.
And the only way you can really do that is put your stuff down, leave that all to the side, and just completely focus on what's happening right in front of you. And that's
Mhm.
not an easy thing to do.
It's
It's
not,
really not easy
not.
to
I
just.
know sometimes whenever I'm that that part in that section there, that's for somebody like me because I'm
I
more.
can't hear you.
Can you
I
hear me
can't hear
now?
you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's better. Yeah, I
Yes.
was saying that that section right there is for someone like me because I am the one who will do about five different things when I'm supposed to be trying to listen. You know, my wife could be talking about something. I'm like, okay, let me keep myself engaged by doing things while I'm listening. And but even if you can listen better by doing multiple things, because some people do, it
Mhm.
doesn't send off the right message. You know, because it's harder for me to just sit in one place and hear somebody just going on and talking. But if I'm actually cleaning up, folding clothes, doing whatever, I'm like, I'm kind of in and out in my awareness. But that still communicates to them, you have to listen. So it's something to know, and to know how people perceive it, because some people perceive things like that one way, other people take it a whole different way. So we talk about cultural dynamics in communication and knowing how people as a group think about things, or how they as a group might respond to certain things we do. That knowledge could help us move and navigate in that group, and either speak their language or not speak their language on purpose, depending on whatever it is we're called to do. Because we also talk about justice. Now, I don't know if you got to the part about justice yet,
Mm-hmm.
but
I
you
got
got
about 10 pages to go.
okay. Yeah, so I talk about most of the book, I'm talking about reconciliation, mediation, getting along, getting together, being on the same page. But there is a shift when I start talking about the people who are assigned to deal with social justice and how that may not always sound polite. Is
Mhm.
that something you agree with? Because we're believers, we're in Christ, and we know how we're commanded to treat each other. How does that align with your understanding of the faith?
Yeah, man, that's powerful right there. Um, I agree that justice is not silent. It's not always gonna come across as nice and kind and gentle.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you are trying to deliver the message that what is happening now is very important, and it's an urgency to it, and there needs to be a change, and it needs to be now.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so I clearly agree that, you know, it just has to be said. And I'm struggling with that, not to make it about myself, but that's where I am right now.
Mm.
Um, I'm trying to write this paper about Black single mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really in a place of, I'm struggling because I know that this happened back in slavery, back in the 1800s, probably farther back than that. And
Yeah.
so as I open those doors to uncover the true origin of where all
Mm.
this began, it opens doors that I had no intentions on opening, that I have to now look at. I open the door, now I have to look at what's behind that door.
Yes.
And it's a very unpleasant scenery and horrific sight of things that happen to Black women that really just begalls me.
Mm.
And it's a story, it's their story that now I have been chosen to tell,
Mm.
because I opened the door. So now it's been manifested
Yes.
to me to tell her story. And
Yes.
now I'm not the one to talk about these horrific things that have happened, but the story has to be told. And I've been chosen to tell it. So now I must tell it right, because
Mm-hmm.
then I will not be doing them any justice to not tell the truth.
That's right.
And I can't water it down because it
Mm-mm.
happened. It's history. And so I'm looking through the lenses of now my ancestors and the things that, and they are telling their story. So I don't want to tell it the way it's been told, but I have to. But the way
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be told ain't going to be pretty.
It's
And
not,
I
nope.
don't want to give any more power to the one who oppressed them. I
Right.
want their story to be literally and utterly told from their perspective, and not giving any more power to the one who oppressed them and the one who done it to them. And that's where I am, and it is very hard.
Yes, yeah, and I get that. But and that voice that comes from your passion when you are talking about the injustices, that voice, that that tone, that tense aspect of what you're saying, it resonates on a wave, on a level that causes people to either get out the way or get on board. What can I do? It, like you said, it's a call of urgency, and I believe that God placed that in that emotion and that feeling and passion around certain things so that people will rise up and fight the bullies. Somebody has to fight off the bullies, and that the bullies could be different things in different people's lives, but he raises up liberators and people who are passionate and sometimes even angry, and there's righteous indignation as well that rises up, that fuels our communication. So that's good. I'm glad you got a chance to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, it resonated with me right where I am, because I feel like sometimes when I get to the point where I'm trying to write that paper out and write what I read or write what I need to express or explain what happened to them, I get a lump in my throat, even while I'm trying to type it out on the computer. And I'm like, what is this, Lord? So, I'm asking the Holy Spirit to help me to pour that out, because I got a lump in my throat. And like you said, I think it's coming from a angry place, and rightfully so. These things happen, and I do have a right to be angry. It does make you angry to have to reflect back on what happened, but at the same time, how do I be biased and deliver this message without distributing more hatred and more anger, but so that somebody can learn from what it is
Right.
that happened in the past? I mean, it's a lot to unload. So I'm in a stump. I really am in a place of, but this book has really blessed me, is truly blessing me and helping me to help unfold that way, the right way to communicate that message. So I'm so
Yes,
grateful.
yes. So one of the last things I wanted to talk about is really touching on what you just said. And I wanted to say that, the Lord will allow you to speak truth to power, and he will allow you to be elevated to a place where they hear you. And that's never going to be easy, but I do see that he's going to be raising up people around you to help who can resonate on the voice that you have. And that makes me think about David and his mighty men. David was a bad warrior,
Yeah.
but he had some mighty men that was even more on point. I mean, but he was surrounded by people who were mightier than him, but yet they valued him as the king, as their leader. And he's going to actually draw people around you who might be mightier than you in different fields and different arenas, but they'll be drawn to, and they'll say, "You're my leader. Let's lead. Let's go ahead and fight these bullies off to liberate the people." So I see that happening, and I just encourage. I appreciate you coming in and taking some time to talk about this book with me, because it's more than just like selling a book. I really do want to see and hear people interact with the material, tell me what the Lord is saying, what he is impressing on them, because that's going to also help me understand the direction I need to go beyond this book. And he's been telling me, listen to the feedback of the people, listen to how they're interacting with it, what resonates the most, because there are other things I want to say. So this is really just the beginning of a work
Wow.
that's dealing with something that I would really have wanted to stay away from, because like communicate, I want to go chill somewhere by myself and just cool out. I don't want to be talking about communication. So it's just strange that he calls those people that are the most unlikely source sometimes
Wow.
and gives them that message. But I appreciate you being with us.
Wow. That's profound though, because an introvert talking about communicating, and a lot of introverts don't like to do all that talking.
Right.
And that's amazing. That's truly amazing. But I believe and know that this book is anointed, that God has truly blessed you with a product and a material that is going to be just out of this world. It's gonna change a lot of people's lives, and simply because the content alone just is so personal. I just feel a lot of you in this book. I feel a lot of what you've learned and what you've gone through for personal experiences,
Yes.
through learning how to communicate in relationships, maybe even disagreements that you had to, and I'm right there with you, because, when you have a disagreement, and it was a part in there what I was reading, that it was talking about having a disagreement with somebody, but then you don't want to revisit that conversation or that issue that is unresolved. So you end up spending time by yourself, but in that time you spend, you learn that now you have to humiliate yourself or be vulnerable and go back and apologize, because you learned in that silence, in that moment, and that time by yourself, that it was you. It was you, and now you need to go apologize to the person to make it right. That right there, oh my God. But that's God. That's God right there, because he said, you know, when you call yourself, you know, I'm gonna go pray, and then you call yourself telling God on somebody else, and God says, we ain't talking about them, we talking about you.
Talking about
and
you.
So now, so now, are you pleasing me? What you've done was not pleasing to me. So we need to go back to square one and deal with you. And when he gets through with you, now you realize he's getting ready to take you to another level. But first, he's gonna bring you down a couple of pegs or two. And that humiliation is powerful. But it takes you. I never liked being vulnerable. And I was like, well, Lord, what? I said, are you serious right now, God? Really? You want me to go to apologize, and I ain't do nothing wrong, but I did do something wrong. Because what I done wasn't pleasing to him. And it says when we're pleasing to him, then everything else around us will fall in place. So I had to get my stuff right first. And
that's good.
Straighten out the whole situation.
That's good. That's good. Hey, I appreciate you. So glad that you got an opportunity to read through this and then give the people some insight into what they will be reading, and also giving out to people as well. I expect people to buy these books in bulk and not just individual books, so that you can get it out to the right people that you know that are working with other people in these fields. So just grace and peace to y'all. Thanks again, April, for being here.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. James. I thank you.
Blessings.
I need about 10 of them at least.
Okay, we'll do it.
All right,
we'll get it done.
All righty. God
Talk
bless
to you
you.
soon. All right, bye-bye.